Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
So this is just an overview about what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to remind everybody where our district funding comes from, what is a COLA, how can we use our funds. I'm going to talk a little bit about our local control funding formula, and talk about expenses and budgeting constraints. So first, this is just a picture to show what we engage in every day when we make financial decisions. We want to meet our current demands, but we also have to support accountability. So there are different avenues that we receive funding to educate our students, and the main 75% of our revenue comes from the local control funding formula, or LCFF. And that is a really complicated formula that we put in a bunch of information, and then it spits out what our entitlement is. And then that is paid for with local property taxes. But our local property taxes really covers about 15% of that entitlement. So then state aid steps in. And then also it comes in the form of from our Education Protection Act. And then the size of the bucket we receive also includes base grant plus supplemental and concentration dollars. And I'll get into a little more detail about that. We also receive funding from lottery, special grants, special ed, education. We receive some money for one-time funds. We receive federal funds for title dollars, migrant ed, special education again for the federal government. And we also receive local funds, local grants, donations, and other miscellaneous taxes and revenues. But like I said earlier, 75% of our revenue comes from the LCFF, and that's this really complicated, complex formula that we plug in a lot of information, our enrollment, our ADA, our unduplicated count, which is our free, reduced, English learners, homeless, and foster youth. And that creates what's called the unduplicated percentage. Right now in 23-24, last year it was 74.8. And that number is important because it takes into consideration supplemental monies from the supplemental grant and the concentration grant. And that all comes through the LCFF formula. This was changed back in 13-14. They made a major change of our funding. It was intended to simplify and give more local control. It's also to create equitable funding models supporting students with the greatest needs. Our LCAP, Local Control Accountability Plan, really it's driven by the S&C funds we receive, those supplemental and concentration dollars. And then also we receive a couple add-ons. We receive it for transportation and TK. So the main driver of the LCFF is our ADA, our average daily attendance. And that is a formula that takes our attendance days divided by our enrollment days, and it dictates the percentage of funding we receive. So in 23-24, our LCF entitlement per ADA was $14,353 per ADA. And that's important to note, it's not enrollment, it's our attendance. So if we don't have students coming to school, we receive less funding. So our current attendance in 23-24 was 91.99%. Pre-COVID, it was at 95.01%. That's a big difference, 3.02 difference in ADA reduction, therefore it reduced our revenue. So we had less coming in, about 4.3 million. This slide talks about the ADA protection pre-COVID. During COVID, we were protected, we were held harmless. We took pre-COVID ADA numbers and we were able to use that to calculate our funding, so that protected our revenues. It was about an $8.9 million protection. And then this slide here just is to show that our enrollment during the year 1920 when COVID hit, our enrollment was at 9,586. It dipped down, but as you can see, it's rising up. We're projecting 10,000 students next year. So we are one of those rare districts that we're seeing an increase in enrollment. We're not declining. There's a lot of districts in the state of California that experiencing a decline. But we still need to get that ADA number up and get our students to school, and then also will help our revenue. So the COLA, that's why we're here today, right? So the COLA, it's a calculation set in state law to provide annual funding adjustments for state agencies. So each agency has a different, it varies from the state. For education, there's 8 economic factors that dictate what our COLA will be. And it's based on a formula calculated by the State Department of Finance, and it determines the percentage amount of COLA funding that will be passed on to districts, keeping salaries comparable and allowing districts to keep up with rising costs of living. It also helps cover potential cost increases for utilities, supplies, all the way to salaries. And in the past, the state has provided an excess of the COLA, and they've also suspended we've had 0 COLA. So for 23-24, it was 8.22%. It's projected in 24-25 to be 1.07%. And that 8.22 translates to about $8.4 million more in revenue for Marysville Joint Unified. And that's to pay for ongoing expenses such as our step and column, STRS and PERS, increase in retiree, health and welfare, salary increases, and then we also have COP payments. So now I just want to talk a little bit about our funding. We have the general fund that runs the district, and it's split into 2 categories, unrestricted dollars and restricted dollars. The unrestricted is where the LCFF, where we get most of the operations of our district, and then the restricted is for grants and dollars that are for specific use. So here's a list of examples from restricted funds: our title dollars, extended learning, educator effectiveness, arts and music grant, Prop 20 for instructional materials. Those are all restricted dollars that we have to spend with a specific use. So back during COVID, we received quite a bit of one-time dollars, and they were one-time in nature, and they helped kind of take some of the stress off of the general fund, and but they go away, right? They're not ongoing. So they're provided for a specific purpose. That was to help us get through the pandemic, and now they're gone, and we have to learn to live within the ongoing revenue that we're receiving. Oh, this looks like a repeat. What happened? Am I going backwards? Okay, well, I was. That's weird. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's a chart. I've showed it before in my other presentations. It shows the cliff of our one-time dollars. The green blocks are ESSER COVID relief funds, and then the blue blocks are what are coming in, and they're one-time dollars also our educator effectiveness block grant, our arts and music, and also our learning recovery. And our learning recovery goes out to 2028, but you can see where they end, and we have to, they're one-time dollars, again, they're to help us get past the ESSER funding, but we also have to rein back in our expenditures and live within our ongoing revenue. So the big question is, where's that 8.22 COLA, right? That's what everybody's asking. So this graph here shows in the orange columns our expenditures, and that blue dotted line is our revenue. And you can see in 2021, we had about a $10 million surplus. We brought in more money than we spent. Then in 21-22, we had we spent more than we brought in by about, I don't have my glasses on, I can't see, 7 million, is that? And then in 22-23, we actually came ahead about 2 million. And something to keep in mind is during this time, we had those ESSER funds, and they really took the relief off of our, this is just our unrestricted general fund, not our restricted. And something else I would like to point out with the unrestricted, those dollars also make contributions for our special ed programs and our routine maintenance. And then you can see in 23-24, we're deficit spending by about 18 million. About 11 million of that are for the tracks. They're capital outlay, they're one-time in nature. So as you look projecting into 24-25, we're still deficit spending. We're still exceeding our revenues with our spending. So the 8.22 isn't just a line item in our budget that I can point to and say, this is where it is. It's throughout the district. It's throughout all of our expenditures. And so this graph here is a little busy and it's a little small, but the first set of lines are salary and benefits for each year. And then it's a major expenditure areas. We have salary and benefits, we have instructional materials and supplies, our services, which carries in our utilities, contracts, service agreements, and then capital outlay, which is pretty small, you can see those numbers, and then our other outgo, which is our COP payments mostly. And then the very last one is our contributions, and those are our contributions to special ed and routine maintenance. And you can see starting in 2021 all the way through 24, 25, it just is growing. Our expenditures are growing. And then here's just another slide to show our salary and benefits are about 85%, 80% of our budget. And you can see that how they've grown throughout the years, the increases, and it's into buckets of teachers, other certificated, classified, and management. And management includes both certificated and classified. So some of our regular operating expenses that we need to use our revenue for are salary and benefits, of course, where people business, step and column, PERS and STRS, our materials and supplies such as fuel, supplies and food, contracts, services and communications, facility maintenance, and our utilities. So some of the budget constraints that we're facing are structural deficits. We're spending more than we are in our ongoing expenditures than we're receiving in our ongoing revenue. Those one-time funds have masked that for us. They've given us some relief, but now they're going away, which hence is the deficit spending. And so again, we just, no more COVID safety net, no more additional dollars, and that ADA hold harmless is gone. Now it's based on our actual ADA. And then just as a reminder, as we close the year, we're right now in the closing the books. We'll be back here in September to give you the 23, 24 unaudited actuals. Any unspent funds do drop to the bottom line. However, to keep in mind, as of 21, 22, any unexpended LCAP dollars has to be kept for future LCAP use. And then our restricted sources, of course, they're either carried over or maintained. And there's a couple of examples. Again, title funds, special grants, ELOP, Prop 28. And this is just a picture of our multi-year for just our unrestricted dollars. It's showing 24, 25 out through 26, 25. And if you pay attention to that yellow line, the surplus deficit spending, you can see that we're projected to keep spending more than we're bringing in by about $6 million for this year, next year. And then it does decrease a little in 26, 25. And you can see what it does, that ending balance over June 30th, it just keeps depleting our reserves. That's it.
Well, thank you. Are there any questions from the board for Jennifer?
Jennifer, a quick question on the percentages on the second page. Didn't mean to cut you off there. Can you clarify the property taxes versus the state taxes, what percentages those are?
I sure can. Let's see, Russell's getting us back there. Thank you. So our property taxes are collected, through the assessor's office, and then that really is what's supposed to fund our schools. But we don't bring in enough property tax to fund our entitlement. So our entitlement is around 136 million, and we only bring in about 15% of that. So then the state, about 15, yes.
Is that pretty consistent from year to year?
Yes, some years might be a little more. Mm-hmm. It's pretty consistent, but as our entitlement goes up, it's kind of all relative. And then the state fills in the rest with aid.
Thank you.
Dr. Yang?
Yeah, if we can flip to the page that says unrestricted general fund salary and benefits. Right there.
Yes.
What explains the $1.4 million increase in management between 2022 to 2023? Academic year 2022 to 2023 is 7 million, and then academic year for 23-24 is 8.4 million. So that's 1.4 million increase in management. So that seems like a substantial increase in the overall management salaries.
Yeah, it is, and it's also, we had salary increases of 7% for the 22-23 year, and it hit in 23-24.
But that alone doesn't explain it, because the ratio between the teachers, which is 38.3 to 40.5, doesn't look proportional, right? Because, and so when I'm looking at that, we're only talking about 2.2 million for the teachers versus 1.4 million for the management. So salary increases alone doesn't make any sense.
Well, it could also be positions in there, increased positions. We'd have to do a detailed look and find out where they are. Management does have higher salaries. There's also that.
We also took the cost of all the assistant principals, right?
We did, except for that it's still, this is unrestricted dollars, and they were already included in there in 23-24 from 22-23. We had the assistant principals during that time. We just kind of, it was still unrestricted dollars.
So what could have increased to 1.4? We can get back to you with that, because that is a...
Yeah, because even with larger salary, it wouldn't make any sense, because the increase in management is double the increase for teachers. And if you look at the difference between, it's 7 million versus 38 million, so the ratio doesn't add up just looking at those numbers alone.
Well, I can also say this, when we settled negotiations in 22-23, we were at the very end of that year. And so we paid out teachers first. I think we settled first with teachers, and that hit the 22-23 books. And in 23-24, we did the retros back. So there is that there. So we paid for 22-23 increase in 23-24. So that will also account towards that being a higher amount.
Oh, so
if you,
let me get that explanation correctly.
Okay.
So the management, what we're saying is that the management increase was paid out of the salary increase for 2022 to 2023 for management was paid out of the 23-24 budget.
yes.
Okay.
The one question I have, Jennifer, is on that 24-25, does that include any salary increases from the COLA?
I'm sorry, for which?
For the 24-25, does that include a COLA?
For salary increases, no, we have not settled negotiations, so it does not.
Okay, so what it sounds like is what Dr. Yang has brought up. We're going to be paying for
Yes.
any COLA out of 24-25 for 23-24.
Correct. Correct.
Can you please clarify for me, for example, the classified position? I mean, I got an idea of what it is, but I just want to hear who's
in
grouped
there?
into that category.
Yeah. Classified are our support staff. There are paid for with unrestricted funds would be all of our support staff here at the district office, bus transportation, custodial, grounds. It's really all of our, all the support staff.
Would it be fair to say that some of those positions are paid out of those one-time funds that are no longer?
Not on this. This is unrestricted only. One thing I did fail to say is those one-time funds are in the restricted side of the budget.
Are there any other questions from the board? Then we will take comments from the audience. Well, whoever wants to start.
I'm not reading from a script this time, so this is going to be a little scary for me. I apologize. Tammy Strolzini, I'm here representing MUTA as the bargaining co-chair. Taking a look at Ms. Pasalia's slide that you guys are looking at, the salary and benefits, I'd also like to talk about the data that we have on our side for total salary and benefits as it pertains to surrounding districts. So I have data from 15 surrounding districts where if you take a look at the total salary and benefit costs and look at that as a percent of total outgo, out of those 15 different districts, we rank 13th, so third from the bottom in the total percent of total outgo for salaries and benefits from 15 different surrounding areas. And just looking at our own total outgo for salary and benefits, if you look at it over a historical perspective, going all the way back to 2018-19, the total percent of total outgo for total salary and benefit costs, we were at the lowest 73% of the general fund. That was the low. It was in the 70s. We spent 73s up to 81% of our total outgo on salary and benefits. And now, as of, this was looking at the first interim report, it was all the way down to 59%. So the trend that we see is that the district is putting less and less money towards the people that are responsible for so many of the jobs in this district. You're spending less on people and more on everything else. This is not propaganda. It is documented, it is quantified, and it is statistically valid. 15 different districts, and if you're looking at them, we're at the bottom. While we're talking about being at the bottom of those 15 surrounding districts, I referred to settlements, salary settlements before. We are, out of those same 15 districts in our surrounding areas, all having to think about the same costs, all having to deal with inflation, all having to deal with budgets and the same ins and outs and daily expenses that we're facing. All of those 14 of those 15 districts were able to give over the last 2 years, over double-digit increases. We are the only district that is if we were to settle what was last brought to the table for our salary negotiations, we would be the only district out of those 15 districts that are offering a single digit salary increase. And so it just begs the question, if these 14 other districts were able to provide significant salary increases over the last 2 years to their employees, to their teachers, to all of the people out there getting these salary settlements, why couldn't we? Why was there not enough money to provide a comparable increases to all these other districts around us? So those are questions that are weighing heavy on our members' minds right now. The only other thing that I like to ask, I was looking at unrestricted numbers when we were comparing what the budget was compared to the unaudited actuals. And on your presentation, you said that basically this year it was a break-even year, that the actuals was about the same in the budget, but we have a very different number. Was that like a capital outlay sort of cost?
This was our budget, and this is where we closed. You're saying 16 million is the variance?
Yeah. So we're looking chronologically over years going all the way back from 2014. We're looking at unrestricted reserves amounts and how the actuals were actually under budgeted There were slight variances in 2014, but the last couple of years have shown just very significant differences between what was budgeted and what was actually spent over the last couple of years.
So Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, you're referring to the fund balance, not the total expenditures. This is the fund balance I'm just trying to clarify so that I answer. So you're saying that we projected 29 million for our fund balance and we closed at 46 million?
Was that the fund balance? Yes.
So that would account for, yes, either unspent dollars, capital outlay that the projects haven't finished that carry over into the next year, or those one-time dollars, but you're saying this is unrestricted. So yeah, it's probably, then it's capital outlay, it's unspent dollars that drop to the fund balance.
Okay, because that was almost a difference of $17 million, and so that's quite a significant difference.
It is, and so those ESSER funds, the one,
We broke even. So.
well, this is 22-23. 22-23, I'm showing a $2 million increase, right? So this must not be unrestricted, it must be our total.
Okay.
Restricted, but this is, oh, let me back up. So this is the difference between revenue and expenditures that year. This is the total in our reserves.
Okay.
So between what we spent and what we received, we came ahead with a surplus of $2 million to increase this fund balance.
Okay.
And so why was the discrepancy? I would say those one-time dollars that we used to take that relief off of the unrestricted, we paid for expenditures that were in the unrestricted, we used the ESSER funds. Okay. So that helped relieve some of that stress and build up our reserves.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, I mean, because a couple of these pieces of these data points, there was a budget amount, but the audited actuals ended up significantly different than what was budgeted.
They did, yes.
And that was before we even had an agreement for the 23-24 school year. So
these are one-time dollars.
All of these are?
Yes, this is our our savings account. That's what that is. So what we didn't spend dropped down and increase. We saved 16 million, and we did have a lot of ESSER funds that we were able to use to pay for expenditures that would have been out of our unrestricted. We were able to use that money.
Okay.
So that helped.
This kind of goes back to because been around for a while, and so historically speaking, we've had very large reserves, right? And then just over the last couple of years, those reserves have shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. Yep. And that's kind of what this is reflecting as well.
They have, and then we're projecting them. It's because we're spending more than we're bringing in.
Okay.
Tammy, thank you for doing the homework. I appreciate you doing that. 15 school districts, you said?
Yes.
I haven't done the homework on all that, so thank you. I know that took a lot of time to do, but I will share with you, I have heard similar information coming in saying, hey, other school districts are paying this and they're doing this. And I had the same exact question. Why aren't we paying the same as neighboring districts? Because I would think as a leader here, we want to be more competitive to bring people in rather than people leaving. So I did ask that question.
We used to be the district that was the most competitive. We had other district teams and union teams that would use our numbers. They would use our salary schedule to try to emulate our numbers.
Right.
And now we're at the bottom of the barrel.
And I agree with you on that. I see that. But when I asked that same question, the response that I got was, we are so unique, and I'm just kind of playing the caveat on here, is that in that we're being so unique in our area and our demographics and our makeup and all the different sites that we have, it's almost like comparing apples and oranges to different districts. So it's very important, and correct me if I'm wrong on statistics here, we need to look at districts of roughly the same size and same makeup, and that's almost impossible to do. I'm not discounting what you're saying, but we have to look at it.
Is the ratio between the population any different than the ratio to the number of teachers that there are, the ratio of teachers per kids, the amount of paper that we use, the amount of ink we use? The ratios are similar, so why can't the ratio be similar for a salary increase?
I don't know. I wish I had that answer.
We face the same problems as other districts do.
Yeah.
The other districts were able to solve their problems and give their teachers a livable wage.
Okay. No, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I definitely want to answer that question and compensate where it's due. but I want to make sure that we're looking at all the variables here when again, bringing on all these other districts, we might be better in paying benefits in one district than the other, even though this number might be different something else. I'm just using an example, to compare that. So, but thank you for doing the homework on that, and I appreciate that. I would actually like to see what you found, because I haven't done that.
Yeah, I know some board members have seen this before because they referred to it as propaganda, so.
Thank you.
Tammy, I wanted to chime in on that because my brother stole all my thunder. But yeah, who did the data on that? Was it you, or did that come down from CTA, or is that a group? Where was the data aggregated from?
So our service center, our CTA staff person, there is, you'd be able to speak more better to this. There's a whole region of staff people that collect the data regarding salary agreements, any negotiated salary increases, any changes in benefit caps. They keep track of all the surrounding districts. And so, yes, I took that data that I'd been provided with and took the 15 schools that they provide us data on and took it from there, and we're at the bottom.
Is that data, is it shareable?
Yeah, I could.
Okay.
I could.
Does the district office, MJUSD, have that data? Okay, I would love to see that data.
So, Doug,
yes.
Sorry. Mr. Criddle, we do have a comparison school districts that we also did.
Okay.
And we'd be happy to show it also, because I would love to see their data and make sure we don't have an error in ours.
Yeah,
if that's something of interest to the board, we could show it.
I would love that, because I mean, I'm looking at, from my lens right now. There's an equitability issue that may or may not be there, and then taking that into effect with certificated. How does it look for administrators? Is our administrative salaries more or less, Jennifer, than surrounding best practice areas?
I haven't done that comparison. Okay. I know we've looked at it. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I think Jordan, I don't know if Jordan's done that research for administrators, but we could certainly look at that.
I'm basing this all of just looking at data here, and the data from administrative services has gone up. Our administrative salaries have gone up. But it just doesn't, it just raises for me a couple of questions of equitability and also competitiveness. I mean, we want to be competitive, and if we're not competitive, that's shame on us.
So one other thing to piggyback on what Tammy was talking about as far as where we get our information and our data from, and Jen can attest to this too because she's the one we have to get it from, but our CTA data comes to us from the district. All of the dollars and cents, the budget information we have, everything, we end up in what's called BINs, which are budget essentials, and all of those numbers come to us from the district. We get first interim, second interim, we get the budget, we get the unaudited actuals, everything from the district. And so these are based off of the district's numbers, not something that just like CTA kind of, pulls out of thin air or anything like that. So, and that's been the same for a long time, as long as I've been doing this anyway, 27 years worth. But also in looking at some of the salaries, I could tell you as far as administrator salaries, the percent of total outgo and administrator salaries, as far as dollars and cents within the budget, because we have those as well. And we're happy to share any of that with the district, the board, whoever would like it. It's no big secret or anything. One of the questions that I had, and I think Dr. Yang was kind of edging on a question I had, getting pretty close to, so it may kind of sort of piggyback on that or get really close to. And I think I should probably ask Jen first. So as far as when we were talking about how the 22-23 negotiations ended up, the increases came out of 23-24. When we settled in May, did it end up that our retros and all that came out so late that they didn't come out till July? Because I honestly can't remember, and I don't have it in front of my face. So.
For the teachers, for certificated, they came out before June 30th because I recall Cindy Helms, our fiscal director, wanting it to really hit before we close the books. And then that was just for certificated for MUTA members. And then the rest of the units we did in July, August, which then hits the 23-24.
So then for teachers, ours would have
hit
been in 22-23
Yes.
and hit.
Yes.
Okay, because one of the other, I don't know if you want to call it a question, a statement, a clarifying thing, you should see, at least on the certificated end of things, you should see that there would be an increase from 22-23 up into 23-24 and 24-25 without any negotiated salary increase and without any COLA at all, because we've had increasing enrollment, which generally requires more teachers. But what's interesting in our district is we keep hearing that we're overstaffed and we have too many teachers. I would beg to differ, especially sitting in classes with 36 all the time. But you should see that there should be some increase just based on that. That alone, as Jennifer stated, we are one of the few districts that can celebrate the fact that we're in increasing enrollment. The vast majority, I think the last number I heard out of EdSource was that 78% of districts are in declining enrollment in the state. And that number may even be a little higher now because that percentage is from a while back. I think that percentage is probably from about April or May. So we may find that there are going to be more than that. So we're in a unique position as far as that goes. As far as like Tammy already talked about in regards to the comparing apples to apples, we've compared apples to apples, we've compared oranges to oranges. Really, it makes zero difference what comparison we come up with, because to be quite honest, and I'm not trying to be combative in any way whatsoever, I'm just trying to respond to a question, but no matter who we pick to compare to, the district always comes back and tells us it's something. It's that they're not a unified district. They're not, close enough to us. They don't have the same enrollment we do. They don't have the same demographics we do. Or, they weren't standing on their tippy toes when there was a quarter-inch of dew on the ground. Or, whatever. It's like no matter what we bring forward, we're told, oh no, that's not a good comparison. That's not a good comparison. And so I can compare us to anybody you want. And I can probably tell you that, well, yeah, interesting, because Western Placer, I believe, is one of the 15, correct me if I'm wrong, did Western Placer end up on our list?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Western Placer is up on your list there.
Yuba-Cities is not correct.
Yeah, Yuba-Cities isn't correct. Woodland actually is no longer correct either. Woodland, 2 years ago, we could actually recruit teachers from Woodland because our salary was so much higher than Woodland's that we could actually get teachers to make the drive here, because even with the transportation cost and the cost of gas, they were making more here than in Woodland. And that is no longer true.
Which part isn't correct? Like you said Yuba City, and the other one, which column?
Settled in 22-23 with 11.5%. And then an additional 0.5% for the 20, they had to reopen it, and they settled for an additional 0.5% in 23-24. Because their 11.5% was a 2-year settlement.
Yeah, so basically, sorry. Hey, you could come say that all over again. It'll be great fun. It'll be like there's an echo.
Sorry about that. So according to our records, in 22-23 school year, Yuba City actually settled a 2-year salary increase of 11.5%, with the option to come back if there was more funding available. So they came back the 23-24 school year and negotiated another 0.5% for a total of 12% over a 2-year time for Yuba City.
Tammy, just so that I write it correctly in my notes. So because of all the numbers flying around, so you're saying that Yuba City and 22-23 settled for 2 years combined, right? That 11.5%.
With the option to come back to the table in 23-24.
Yeah, so does that mean that it's 11.5% for both years, or is that, so a total of 22 and 23%, or is it that within that 2-year period, the salary increase was a total of 11.5%?
In the year 22-23, their teachers received an 11.5% increase.
Pay increase.
Then in
And
23-24 came back to the table and negotiated another 0.5%.
bump for the 23-24 year.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
And that 11.5 is ongoing? There were no one-time?
Yes, everything that I'm referring to is ongoing on the salary schedule.
So are these salaries we are showing accurate for Yuba City and Woodland?
Woodlands, I believe there's one on Woodlands that's slightly off.
And Woodland is not one of my,
Yeah, and depending, sorry. I think Yuba City's is slightly off. I can look at it to make sure, because I have their salary schedule in here somewhere.
Can somebody tell us
Cities.
what we offered in 22, 23?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it Brian or who would have the, Jen? Who would have the answer for what did we offer in 22,
For
23?
us, for what we, MJUSD,
Yeah.
we settled with a 7% ongoing and a 2.57% ongoing with benefits for the cap.
Jennifer, what would be the number in that missing box there for our benefits?
For benefits, where are we? Oh, we don't have it in there? MJ, I don't have my glasses on, I'm sorry, so I can't. Oh, okay, you guys are putting me on the spot. I think,
I know it's a lot of numbers.
it used to be about 10 grand, right, a year, and now it increased? Yeah, sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't want to say the wrong, but 11,000, I'd say approximately, right? Does that sound right? Okay.
Yeah, it's about one of the lowest up there. Along with our
Yeah, it's blurry.
Jennifer, or Tammy, or Angela, do we know what Yuba City also settled for one time for 22, 23 as part of that 11.5%?
They had dollars. They had the. Yeah, not without pulling up. I mean, I can have it for you before we leave here this evening. It's in an email, so.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to understand what's the equivalent, since they settled across 2 years, where we settled 1 year and we had a one time, and I want to make sure that we account for the one time if Yuba City gave them one time.
Well, the other thing, and I can't, now that I can't see that last column up there, and I don't want to touch anything and screw it up.
I think it's Russell's.
Hey, there you go.
Where do you want to see?
I think, I'm not sure, but I think at least one of those, they actually had an increase on their cap, also one of the other districts. And so I'm not sure that like 4% or 4% increase would necessarily tell the whole story, because a 4% increase would be on their salary, but I believe at least one of those also had an increase on their health and welfare, and that's not listed on there, whereas now ours is up there, listed separately. And if you want to look at some interesting data, we can bring you the info on how long it's been since we've had an increase on our health and benefits cap. So.
One of our bargaining members from out in cyberspace is reported, what is it? Our benefit cap is $9,084 annually.
Don't open that one. Open the one that's opened already.
Erica?
Oh, well.
I think that was,
Okay.
that was the old one. I think that's the old one.
Then scratch that. I apologize. We're still looking for the current data.
I didn't bring my computer in here.
I know, same. We could look up. I didn't know we were going to be comparing everybody else's stuff too. Yeah, we don't, Dr. Yang, we don't have much on one-time monies for surrounding districts because that is not our goal. Our goal is to try to secure ongoing salary increases for our members. So the data that I have only addresses salary settlements to the salary schedule.
Tammy, can I ask you a clarifying question, please? I'm seeing a few questions here. So I think the question for Yuba City was that for 22-23 and 23-24, they got a total of 12%. Am I right?
As the ongoing on-schedule
Correct.
agreement, yes.
Whereas we have given so far 7% ongoing last year. And how much, Jen? 2 point what on benefits ongoing?
5.7.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't have anything for 23, 24 right now.
No, we're not talking about 24. We don't have 24 right now. So we gave 9.75 ongoing.
Not 9.75.
The benefits,
Benefits was 2.57.
Oh, you're not counting the benefits. Did they give anything on benefits, Yuba City?
The benefits were 2.57.
No, did Yuba City give any benefits?
Oh, Yuba City? I don't know.
We didn't hear that. So the ongoing cost for us was 9.57, and for 1 year only, and we haven't even looked at this year yet. For Yuba City, last year yet. For Yuba City, the year before and last year together was 12%.
Yeah, but that doesn't give any good comparison because we don't know what the one-time is and the benefit cap is, right? So for Yuba City, that's the thing is that if we're looking at a comparable district that's adjacent, right? And granted, Yuba City is a lot more compact, so they have some costs that are different than us in terms of geographic coverage. But if we're just looking at pure salary, we need to also know whether Yuba City gave a benefit cap and they gave ongoing. I understand that the ongoing doesn't carry forward. It was a one-time deal for that year, but we want to make sure that it's a fair comparison across the board.
Well, and that's where I'm getting a little concerned as far as a fair comparison, because also when the district keeps bringing up the 2.57% for benefits for the increase on the cap, that makes it sound like I got a 2.57% salary increase, and that isn't true. That's not how that worked out. But anything that we do has to be equated to a percentage so that the district can present it to you all and so that we can take it out to our members. So it's really, talk about comparing apples and oranges, that's where you really are. So when you're talking about salary, we got a 7% salary increase. We did not get a raise because that salary increase did not exceed COLA because the COLA was 13.26%. So we did get a salary adjustment or a salary increase of 7%, but we did not all get a 9.57% increase. The 2.57 is misleading. I mean, it is an increase that was put out to our members in order to make sure that the benefits cap went up. But it really is, it's misleading then to say that we got a 9.57% increase. That's not true. I did not get a 9.57% increase on my salary. That's not how that worked. So, and I don't know, I could give you the whole rundown on how that percentage thing works out and how 1% works and all that, but it's probably going to lose a whole lot of people. But trying to put that benefits on there like that is misleading.
So let's settle on a fair way of understanding what that cap is. What's the net benefit of that benefit cap to the teachers? Did it reduce the health insurance cost or anything? What is the net benefit?
Yeah, I mean, it offset it, but then here's the thing that ends up happening though. We offset it to where it didn't cover, for the vast majority of us, it did not cover our benefits costs that we have out of our pocket each month. It didn't cover all of that. And then just as quickly as we got this 2.57% raise on the cap, our rates turned around and went up between 3%, 5%, and 9%, to which our members have to bear the entirety of that. because the cap does not adjust. Like, unless we bargain it, the cap will not be adjusted this year, but the CVT rates all went up. And so we bear the brunt of that. And so there again, that 2.57% is a bit misleading. I think, if I remember right, it brought the cap up $100 and some odd. Was it $178 or something a month is what it brought the cap up. But when you've got people that are paying $2,000 a month, in addition to what the district cap is, and now, of course, again, it's going up, so that $100 and some odd that the cap went up is already... This is why being behind in bargaining becomes really problematic. When we're constantly bargaining for a year that is already gone, that's where it really becomes a problem. Because you cannot keep up with the Joneses, so to say. You can't keep up with the numbers, you can't keep up with COLA, you can't keep up with an increase in, the benefits. You can't keep up with any of that when you're constantly bargaining a year and a half behind. And COLA is out before that. I mean, Jen could attest to the fact we were at school services, so school services, just like CTA and just like the CDE, they all come out with the COLA, 3-year projections on it. So it's not like COLA is all of a sudden just, sprung on the district and it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea it was going to be that. I mean, sometimes there is a little bit of an adjustment, like this coming year is kind of a anomaly, but I mean, we started out at one point, they thought the COLA for this coming year was going to be 3.7 something, then it went down to it was going to be 0. Now we're back up to its 1.07%. That is an anomaly. But most generally, the district and all of us have some idea what COLA is going to be 2 and 3 years ahead of time. I'm not saying that we should be bargaining for, 27, 28 right now, but we should not be bargaining for 23, 24.
So this has been a curious question for me the whole time that I've been on the board. From the teacher's perspective, why are we retro bargaining the academic calendar year?
I'm going to be really honest and transparent, even though I'm not sure how much it's going to be appreciated. Why are we constantly behind? The district likes us to be behind because then the district can sit there and say that money's already spent, so we don't have anything to give you guys.
It's a turnover
issue
too.
Well, I mean, there has been some turnover, but historically the last, I would say probably 5 years at least, but in particular the last 3, it's really easy for districts, not just Marysville Joint Unified, it's really easy for any district to play what we call the slow roll or the drag your feet, where the longer you can drag it out, then the more the district can say, we don't have the money for it, we don't have the money for it, we don't have the money for it, because the money has already been spent then. They can literally come in and say, sorry, the money's been spent. And then it hamstrings us, because the money shouldn't be spent. The money shouldn't be gone. Even if you want to try to slow roll bargaining or whatever, for whatever reason, either because you've got a high turnover in the HR, assistant soup, who is your bargaining chair, whatever. It shouldn't be that way. The district, like I said, knows what COLA is, or at least has a pretty good idea. So the fact that the district does not budget for COLA, for certificated salaries or any salaries, is a huge problem. And that's how we find ourselves in the situations we do. MUTA's not alone. I mean, we're the ones standing up here right now, but we are not the only labor organization in this district that has not settled for 23-24. And we're not the only ones that are being told that the 8.22% is gone.
So give me some historical perspective. From your time that you've been with MJSD, when was the last time MJSD has settled with the teachers on the academic year that they were on?
We were close, and then COVID hit.
Yeah,
we were close.
We were so close, because the last time I would say was probably, I think 2019-20.
It was right. It was.
I believe.
We were on track.
I think.
To be on track, and then COVID hit and put us because.
And so some of it.
Well, what I'm saying is, actually bargaining for the contract before the year starts.
That's what we're asking.
You should.
So in 2019 and 2020, that year, you guys were bargaining for the 2021?
No, we were close. So that's what Tammy's talking about.
That's what I'm saying. It was so for that year, if it would have been settled, it would have been for the 2021 year?
When we were
Was
working
that due,
on,
because I just want to get the timeline correct, because normally the bargaining happens in the spring of
it
a
should
year.
happen before that. So I've been doing this way too long, which makes me sound really old, but that's all right. And so in all the years that we've done bargaining, what you want to have, what is optimal, is that, for instance, we're about to be bargaining here in a few weeks. Optimal would be that instead of trying to bargain for 23-24, or even bargaining for 24-25, we'd be bargaining actually for 25-26 coming this year. So that you are bargaining for the upcoming, not for what's already passed or what you're sitting in the midst of. And that is hard to do. But at the very least, you would think that when we're starting this school year, that if we were trying to do some bargaining for 24-25, you'd think that we would be trying to wrap up 24-25 in August.
Yeah, so that's why I'm trying, I agree with that premise 100%, so that's why I want to.
That's not what's happening.
Have MJSD historically ever made that?
So yes, we have. Hold on.
When was the last year?
We have. I think the last year that we were that close probably would have been that early, I would say. Probably, I'd have to look back at some bargaining notes, but I think it's probably going to be maybe 2014, 15, maybe 15, 16, somewhere like that, that we were actually that far ahead. But as far as getting pretty darn close and at least being really reasonable-ish, at least, I think is probably going to be 2019, 2020.
In 1920, we finished early enough with the 1920 deal that we started talking about 2021.
Mm-hmm. And then COVID hit.
And then we had COVID, but we did finish early enough in the year that we were able to start some of the bargaining process.
When COVID hit in March of 2020, we had wrapped up 2019, 2020 bargaining. And actually what ended up being really a thankful kind of proposition on that, or a thankful residual from that, is that since we had wrapped up our regular bargain already, that when COVID hit in March, and we had to instantly, all of us get to the bargaining table to try to figure out what the heck we were going to do with COVID happening and schools being shut down and all of that, we weren't in the midst of regular bargaining. And so that was actually, that was really a blessing at that point. We got really lucky on that. But then things just got further backed up and further backed up. And what actually will also back up bargaining as well, and not to get way off of budget stuff, because I know we're a study session and so we're supposed to kind of stick with things, but another thing that's getting us way off is that when the district decides that they're going to do some other type of program or grant or school or some change or whatever, and they don't bargain that to agreement with us before they implement, we then end up having to file things like unfair labor practice charges, that kind of thing, or we end up that at the last possible second in the middle of things, we have to drop our regular bargain and stop our regular bargaining to turn around and bargain for whatever the newest, latest, greatest thing is, whatever the new program is, whatever the new grant is, whatever the new school is, whatever, we have to stop our regular bargain and attempt to bargain for that. Or we have to stop our regular bargain because suddenly we're in the midst of trying to settle an unfair labor practice charge. That all slows down and absolutely hinders the regular bargain. There's no question about it.
Yuba-City numbers.
We've got the whole thing from Yuba-City.
There we go. We've got Yuba-City numbers in 3 different versions now, 3 different fonts, I should say. Sorry, not versions.
So going back, Dr. Yang, to your Yuba-City question, this is coming from one of the school board members, that in 22-23, there was 11.5% salary increase retroactive to July of 2022. A one-time $5,000 for all currently employed with Yuba-City Unified, one-time $4,000 for the 23-24 school year retention bonus for anybody returning the following year, and then some other language that included the opportunity to come back for the 23-24 school year, and they did that and then got another 0.5%. I don't see anything regarding a benefit increase in that, though.
So if I understand that correctly, as part of the 22-23 11% settlement, they had a $5,000 one-time payment to everybody, right? Flat across the board.
Yes.
And that was for only the teachers, is that correct?
We're all currently employed with YCUSD.
So it was everybody, okay? And then for the last academic year, 23-24, they had a one-time 4,000 retention bonus for anybody who came back, meaning that in a couple weeks, a couple days from now, if they come back, they get it, right?
No, that was last year.
Oh, last year. Oh, okay.
324.
Okay, so they paid out the 4,000 in the fall. Okay, and then a 1.5% for last year as well.
0.5%.
Okay.
Yes, ongoing.
Well, one of the things I'd like to get from you guys is the data that you've collected and have it compared to what we have collected and see where things are corrected. It has been a very tough year with the negotiations, as you know. And I know there were certain things that were a priority to the union to address before we went to the COLA. I know there were, at least from what I hear from our negotiating team. So here we are. And I'd like to try to figure out what the district can do with the funding we have. You can't go backwards. And I do understand the whole business about trying to budget for COLA. We don't get that number at the beginning of the year. We get it in the middle of the year.
COLA? No, we get COLA before. Sorry, Mr. Davis, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we do. COLA for the current year is out, at the very latest, it's out in May for the upcoming year. That's the latest.
Well, we don't know what the number is until it's released by the governor. And so that's July. Anyway, what I'm trying to figure out is what more discussion do we need?
Well, one of the things that MUTA has asked for, and I would assume that it would be helpful to other units, but I don't presume to speak for them, but it's just an idea for them to think about. But for us, what we've asked for a number of years, and it's something that we used to be able to do, is we've asked for 3 board members, because that is not a quorum. We've asked for 3 board members to sit down with us and look at our numbers, look at our data, listen to what we have to say, and if you have questions for us, ask away, because if there's data that we don't have that would help you understand our data, or numbers or whatever, if there's questions you have, if you're getting conflicting information and you'd kind of like to know, we've offered that up, we've begged and pleaded for it. I mean, I think it's at least a place to start, because I will tell you one thing, Mr. Davis, as far as somebody who's done this for a really long time, because I've been with Marysville Joint Unified 27 years. I've been on the bargaining team at least 20-something of that, 21 or 22 of that, I believe. And I could tell you, it used to be, as my students say, back in the day, that anybody from the bargaining team could call up any member of the board and they would answer the phone, and you could say, hey, this is Angela with the bargaining team from MUTA. Do you have a minute? And the board member, oh, what's going on? And I could sit and have a conversation with them and tell them, here's what happened at the table today, or here's the information that we have, or here's some of the issues, here's where some of the hangups are. I could call and ask questions, and even not about bargaining stuff, but I could call up about something that was on the board agenda and be like, hey, here are some of the questions or issues we have with that, or here's why, please support this or whatever. That does not exist any longer. And I know some of the reasons I've been told for why it exists, and I know that, well, not to be too blunt, but I know none of them are good reasons. And I know because I've been doing this for so long. And as most of you know, I am all over this state because I'm highly involved in CTA. It's no secret. I am all over this state, and as a matter of fact, all over the United States even. This is an anomaly here. The fact that we don't have an open line of communication between the board and the teachers union is an anomaly. It is the exception, not the rule. The fact that bargaining teams do not have any sort of communication with the board, that the only information you are getting on our bargain is from the district's bargaining team, should be problematic to you. It should bring up questions in your own mind, and especially the fact that that happened for decades. I mean, I'd have board members call me. It sometimes wouldn't even be me calling board members. I'd have board members call me and say, hey, I have some questions about this. Or I'd have board members even call me up and say, so how are negotiations going? I just want to make sure that, you know, the information I'm receiving is accurate, or I just want to make sure that this is an accurate portrayal of how things are going. And, you know, and we would have those conversations. That doesn't exist anymore. And we've asked for it. We've begged and pleaded, which I have set up at this podium in various forums before. It would at least be a start, you know, so that you weren't just getting one side of the story. Sorry. I'll get off my soapbox now. First,
Any other questions?
Just a reminder that the funds that equate the 8.22% last year, you got again this year, along with 1.07% more, because that 8.22 is ongoing monies. So just because you were talking about not going backwards, there's still something that can be done for our people today. They're here in the here and now, because you guys are still getting that money.
And I will say, I'm not going to climb up on a soapbox again this time, but one other thing that I will say is that in a very recent meeting, somebody attempted to explain COLA to my unit members and talked about the fact that, you know, district gets this COLA and then we've got this 8.22% and we have to dole out the 8.22% to everything. And we attempted to correct that in the middle of the meeting, but if the board is being told that as well, I have plenty of information from the CDE and the State Board of Education and School Services and Fiscal Services and CTA to explain exactly how that works. Because the district does get 8.22%, and you get 8.22% on a number of programs and that kind of thing. And so it made it sound like you guys get this little bitty piece of pie and then you have to shave it off for everybody, and like the teachers are being all greedy. And so that becomes an issue as well. And so if you need any of that info, if that would help any of you out at all, I am more than happy to get it to you. I can even email it to you. It's not a problem. But telling the teachers also that in order for us to get any increase, that means pink slips to other people. That is a divisive tactic, and it's a scare tactic. And I hope that it was a mistake or an error in judgment at the time. I know a lot of us are already tired, even though the school year hasn't started. So I would like to maybe give somebody an opportunity to kind of roll that back, walk that back a little bit, because that's a way to try to divide your labor groups against each other, and that's not a place we need to be either. That's not what we need, especially as we're starting a new school year, but that's the last thing we need.
Any other comments or questions? If not, we're adjourned.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Here we go. Heads.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties.
Smile for me.